Welcome to AP Environmental Science. In this video, we are going to talk a little bit about the demographic transition model. Now, if you look it up in a dictionary or Google it online, you're going to see this definition that it is a demographic transition refers to that transition from high to low birth and death rates in a country or region as development occurs, and that country transitions from pre-industrial to industrialized economic system. Now, in AP Environmental Science, we use a 4-stage model. There are some textbooks and some scholars that use a 5-stage model that add an additional bit of information, but we only need to know the first 4. So essentially, the demographic transition model is just a way to visually represent changes in the birth rate and death rate of a particular country over time. So this is an image of the 4-stage demographic transition model. Starting in stage 1, that is our pre-modern era. We see really high birth rates and really high death rates, and we see quite a bit of fluctuation going on. And this can be due to several factors. This could be from wars and political unrest. This could be due to economic changes. This could be due to famines and all sorts of factors that influence these things. But once a country turns towards stage 2, suddenly we see some pretty significant population growth. And that's because they're starting to see more advances in medicine, so those babies are going to be able to survive a little bit better, and our death rate is going to go down. But here's the thing, it takes a really long time to change the culture of having large families within a particular country. So it takes a lot of education and a lot of outreach and a lot of societal shifts in order to see that birth rate start to fall down. So what happens is we're seeing this huge population growth from a lot of babies being born in stage 2 and not very many people dying. When we get to stage 3, that is when we start seeing a mature industrialized country. This means that our birth rate is finally starting to fall down, but our death rate is staying pretty low. Now, this section of the model in the middle here, when we still have a high birth rate and a pretty low death rate, that leads to this phenomena known as population momentum. So we see this surge in population growth from lots of babies being born and not as many people dying, and that lag time for that cultural shift to occur. Once we get to stage 4, this would be our post-industrialized countries. These are places that have very low birth rates and low death rates. Now, stage 5, if it were there, we would start to see this increase in death rate with a low birth rate, but we don't really worry about that too much for the scope of our class because, in all honesty, this hasn't happened in very many locations. Now, if we look at characteristics of the developing countries, these are places that are in that stage 1 and kind of the beginnings of stage 2 of the demographic transition. We're seeing pretty high infant mortality, so they're going to have more babies to try to replace these infants that aren't surviving. So we're going to see a high total fertility rate. You're also going to see a high crude death rate because there's not a really great quality of life in these areas. There's a lot of children in the workforce and a relatively low average life expectancy. A developed country, on the other hand, has a much lower infant mortality rate. And people realize this, so they have fewer babies because they can expect their children to reach adulthood. You're also going to see fewer children in the workforce and a lower total fertility rate, meaning each woman is having fewer total births. There's going to be a low crude death rate because there's probably some pretty decent medical care available and a pretty high average life expectancy. Now, in summary, this demographic transition model is just a way to visually represent the factors of birth rate and death rate contributing to the overall population size, and you should know a few of the key factors associated with developing countries and developed countries. So please send me your questions, and I hope that as you watch this video, you were able to learn something.